Firemen always expect real trouble when an alarm comes in from any point on the waterfront. There's probably nothing nastier than a waterfront fire. All sorts of cargo is jumbled together. The flames feed on the worst combinations that a fire department can face, with temperatures so high that the water itself seems to burn. Yet here I was, in water bright from the flames burning over my head. If I had any sense, I would be swimming away from that hell at the water's edge. Instead, I was swimming toward it, hauling a hose, swimming toward one special building within that ring of flame, and wondering why I let myself be talked into this. I'd been warned that it could be a suicide mission, but it was too late now to turn back. The day had started out like any normal day. I was making a routine inspection of some underwater cable, looking for spots that showed signs of wear. When I found one, I'd mark it by attaching a special buoy. This was my last one for the day. The water temperature had been perfect, the currents easy, and the work had gone well. Everything was just as right could be. I should have known that it was too good to last. Less than 2 minutes after I reached the surface, I was in an amphibian plane heading back toward the city. There was hardly any time for explanations. All the pilot could tell me was that he had received an emergency call from Jim McVeigh, the head of the fire department. McVeigh had asked him to locate me and bring me in without a moment's delay. Then we got our first look at the waterfront from the air. It was the biggest fire that I had ever seen. Whatever it was that McVeigh wanted, I could be sure of one thing. That was no picnic waiting for me, or anyone else down there. Chief McVeigh had just completed a personal inspection. He hadn't found it encouraging. The situation was getting more desperate by the minute.
Let me see point 2 again.
Point 2.
Oliver?
Yes, sir.
You better have the men from Company 12 join the others at point 2.
Yes, sir.
Hi, Chief.
Oh, Mike, I'm glad to see you. Come on over. Here, you can see the whole thing from field headquarters here. We've got widescreen television cameras now at all the key points.
Oh, that's a terrible fire.
Tolliver, has Fireboat D been shifted?
Yes, sir, but that's as near as it can get.
Mike? Look, there's a building right in here with the edge of the water in between these piers, where a chemical supply company stores all the stuff it imports and exports. Now, just a little while ago, we learned from Mr. Rawson here, he's the owner, there's half a ton of a special powdered compound in there, illegally, with an explosive force 30 times greater than dynamite.
We just hadn't had time to move it.
Well, if it goes up, Rawson, you'll be held criminally responsible. And if it goes up, Mike, that whole section of the city will be on fire in seconds. I don't know how many people will be killed.
But the flames haven't reached the building yet. You said Mr. Nelson.
Now, somebody has to reach that building before the fire does. 12 of my men have tried it. 4 have been badly burned. One man moving underwater might have a chance to make it and get back.
How do you figure that?
We have a large water intake pipe we use for cooling chemicals. It's down in here, in between the piers. It runs right underneath the building.
Chief, I'm not a trained fireman. Even if I did get through, I wouldn't know what to do after I got there.
The only thing you have to know is that the compound is stored in large sacks. You cut the sacks open and wash it away with water. Once in water, it's harmless.
Roger and over. Chief?
Instruct Fireboat K to assist Fireboat D.
Yes, sir.
Look, Mike, water has to reach the compound before fire does. Come here. Look, this fireboat would be your base. They'd unreel the lightest hose we've got.
You've got to try, Mr. Nelson. I'm desperate.
I'm sorry, sir. Word from the hospital. Timmons is dead.
How much time's left before the building might go?
The way those flames are moving, I'd say 40 minutes at the most. But I've got to give the evacuation order in 20 minutes. Mike, I've got nearly 600 men working all around this area. A third of them could be killed if I don't make the right decision at the right time. Every man, every piece of apparatus will fall back for blocks. Heaven only knows what'll happen after that.
Well, looks like I'm elected.
I want to level with you, Mike. If the building goes, and you're still anywhere near, you'd go too.
Well, let's hope it doesn't go, huh?
Bring in Fireboat E.
Yes, sir. Fireboat, head first.
McVeigh was right in his hunch about an underwater approach. It was the only way. The flame and smoke spread over the top of the water was an impassable barrier. I discovered that I could manage the hose fairly well despite the heavy drag. The water helped to buoy it.
Roger. Roger and over. Chief, point zero reports that the wind is becoming brisker. Estimated 14 miles per hour.
Get me point 8.
Yes, sir. Point 8. Yes, sir. Point 8.
It's the building next to mine. It's still just smoke.
Oh, you see that glow inside those side windows? Oliver, notify all points alert for evacuation.
Yes, sir. Condition yellow.
I'm sorry, Chief. Does that mean Nelson turns back?
Not till we tug back on his hose, that's his signal.
You can't let him turn back yet.
I could see that the intake pipe was certainly big enough for me to pass through, even with my air tanks. I pulled in enough hose to give me plenty of slack before I moved into the pipe. I had been warned about the wire screen a few feet inside. A pair of wire cutters were part of my equipment. I unhooked them and went to work. It was a delay that I couldn't afford, but there was no way of avoiding it. I tried to keep myself from hurrying too much, so that the cut would be even and smooth, without sharp ends that might rip my air hose or the hose that I was pulling. But all through it, pounding in my brain, was the thought that I was now probably not more than 50 yards or so from a stack of sacks that at any moment could blow me and everything else around it to pieces. The way was open, but was it a one-way passage? was entering a burning building through an underwater pipe. My job was to reach a store of highly explosive powdered compound with water before it was reached by fire. Over my head, blocks of waterfront buildings were a sea of flame, and my time was desperately short. I was making progress. Then suddenly I was stopped. The hose wouldn't move. I wondered whether this was the alarm signal from the fireboat, the signal to get out, and fast. But that didn't seem likely, this soon. Either the situation was now completely out of hand, or something else was wrong. The hose had caught on the fold of the wire. I freed it as quickly as I could, but it was costing me more time than I could spare. I had to make up the time that had been lost by hurrying back at top speed when I should have been conserving strength and air. That piece of pipe was hot. I knew that I must be very close to where the pipe entered the building that I wanted.
That was Mariner Pier, Chief.
It's only a half a block from my building.
Yeah, I know. Tolliver, what's the report on Nelson?
Fireboat states are still unreeling hose. He must be very close.
But the fire's moving so fast. Maybe you should call him back. Maybe we better get out of here, too.
Let me have point 14.
Point 14.
I had reached the connecting intake. I moved upwards to look it over. They had instructed me on how to dislodge the covering, but I wanted to make sure that it would yield before I pulled in more hose. The smoke wasn't too thick, but it was rapidly getting thicker. And even in this deep basement, I could hear the distant sounds of flames and crashing buildings. It wasn't reassuring. The fireboat was still letting me have hose. At least that was encouraging. By now, the hose felt like lead. Just pulling it called for maximum exertion, and maximum exertion uses up air much more rapidly. I could only hope that my air would last. I thought that I might conserve air by not using my tanks in this basement until I absolutely had to. And now the smoke was just too thick. I went back to my own air supply. I cut a sack open. It was the wrong color. These were the right sacks, stretching back in a long, narrow row. I opened the nozzle to wet down the area. It was a good thing that I did. I broke and slashed the sacks open and dumped the deadly compound as rapidly as I could. I could tell that the sounds above me were becoming louder. There were flames somewhere in this building, and by now, not too far away. I pulled the sacks with a new desperation.
Chief, I'm just a civilian. I'm not used to this. If you don't need me anymore, I'd like to go.
Yeah, I think maybe you better get out of here, Rossi. We may have business with you later.
Chief, I think you ought to take a look at point 11 now.
Tolliver, evacuate all units except Fireboat E.
Yes, sir. All units except Fireboat E, condition red. All units except Fireboat E, condition red, over.
Should I start to dismantle this equipment, Chief?
No, that order doesn't apply here. Not yet.
Yes, sir.
I thought you were going.
Not while Nelson's out there.
Chief, report from Fireboat E. Nelson's hose has begun to draw water. He must be in the building.
And there's still a chance.
Shall we cancel condition red?
No, Tolliver, that's all it is, just a chance. Well, there's no more margin. Your building is on fire. The roof is weakened. When it falls through, it'll carry the other floors with it. Tolliver?
Yes, sir.
Instruct Fireboat E to give Nelson his retreat signal. The instant he's aboard, they're to pull clear.
Yes, sir. Headquarters to Fireboat E. Bring in Nelson. Over.
And all three of you beat it. Now.
The Chief...
No, that's a direct order. Go ahead, Ralston. I'll be all right.
The sack seemed twice as heavy as before. My arms ached. But I had made real progress. I felt a tug in the hose, my signal to get out. The area was being abandoned. But behind those boxes, there were too many sacks left. An explosion still could spread the fire far and wide. Now that I was here, I had to stay and gamble.
Still no sign of Nelson? Wait exactly 2 minutes. If he hadn't returned, cut the hose free and fall back.
I was reaching the last of the sacks, and I knew that I must be reaching the last of my air, too. I could hear bricks falling and beams. And close above me, something was burning like the devil's front doorstep.
This is Chief McVeigh. You can disconnect these lines. I'm moving back to point 14.
Clock had run out. I just had time to finish and dive for the pipe. The buildings were collapsing, but without an explosion. McVeigh knew that the mission had been accomplished. There was no happier man in the entire city when he saw my bubbles coming up to the surface, except one, me.
Hello there. I'm Lloyd Bridges. Skin diving is fun and adventure for young and old, but it can be dangerous. So know the sport well and don't take any chances. Be with you next week for another exciting sea hunt.